I wish, I felt a zest for life. I wish I felt enjoyment. And what I realized was that by doing difficult things, you get that that zest for life. And if you are aligned with your vision for how you want to see the world, nothing can stop you. That is how I've gained energy. And I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it as well, but I'm sure we could discuss those
For
further.
sure. And I saw a tweet actually this morning from a guy called Deeper Thrill talking about energy and focus and how they're separate things. And if you have high energy but low focus, you're kind of frantic. But if you have low
Mhm.
energy and low focus, you're procrastinator. And what was the other one? If you have high focus, low energy, it's detached. Everyone knows a kind of office worker who is like just almost semi-conscious, but they're focused on something. And then the ultimate state we want to reach is being high energy and high focus. And it sounds like the transition that you've made has moved you towards that end of the quadrant.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things too is like understanding that it's always a work in progress, right? Because sometimes I'll go on Twitter and I'll notice myself get less focused outside of Twitter. And it's really interesting how certain things will you might think you have it all figured out in terms of feeling calm, feeling present, feeling loving, feeling energetic, feeling able to focus. But then there are always going to be things that are trying to pull you out of that, right? There's always going to be, Twitter. There's always going to be the news. There's always going to be music. Like if you are not so careful with your inputs, the things coming in, you are at the mercy of the way the world wants to train you. And so I think it's always a work in progress, and I'm always trying to make sure I'm at the top of my game as best I can in terms of focus and energy.
So important because all of um, these external drains on your energy, they're all operating within the marketplace for attention, and they're trying to draw your attention away from what you're doing. And they know that algorithmically, outrage and negativity are the things which get people to engage. And by responding to that, you end up kind of feeding the beast, and it can become this complete cycle of and you were saying as well that people aren't really very discriminatory with what they put into their minds. And it's so funny because people are so careful with what they put in their mouths,
Mhm.
but completely indiscriminate with what they put in their minds. So I think looking at what are my input sources and how can I put some barriers in place, or how can I curate that rather than just let it be dictated to me is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I have a few things to program my mind, which if I had told myself that I was doing these things probably 2 or 3 years ago, I would have been like, this person is out of their mind. So if you're listening to this or watching this and thinking that, I totally understand. I've been there. I do a few things to help make sure that my inputs are the ones that I want them to be. And that is on my bathroom mirror, I have an index card that says who I want to be and who the type of person that I want to be. And I read it every morning. Another is that I have a mentality folder, which is just a way to it's like the index card, but it's expanded. And the third thing that I do, which I've stopped doing in the past month, but that I was doing for the past 7 months, was just telling myself I love myself on a consistent basis. And this is so absurd. And if you're listening to this being like, how does any of these things work? I don't know. But all I do know is that when I follow them consistently and and I say to myself, I love myself consistently, it leads to more love in my own life. It leads to a better outcome. And it's much different than consuming the news or consuming Twitter. And so, if you are listening to this, I highly recommend just writing out on an index card who you want to be, the type of person you want to be, and just telling yourself, I love myself. And sounds crazy, but it's worked for me.
This is the thing, like people will hear that and think, "Ah, that sounds a bit cringe," or "That sounds like it won't work," or whatever. But really, what it's a low cost experiment to just try.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, the brain just follows instructions. And what I hear there, and I'm the same. If I heard that a couple of years ago, I would have been like, "Oh, bollocks." But really, this is we're either choosing to be programmed by the random movements of the market and the feed and everything else, or we can just do it consciously. And it's no different. I don't think it's selling out to create our own programming because we're already being programmed regardless. So you may as well make it something that's beneficial and moves you forward in a way that you want to go.
Absolutely. And it's like if you can just do that on a consistent basis. And it's like, it's difficult to say, I love myself every day in the beginning. When you're first doing it, it'll sound weird. It'll sound like, what the hell is this? What are you saying? Like, and then if you actually do it consistently, you'll be like, wow, like my life is starting to change. I am starting to see differences in what's going on. And I can't recommend the practice more.
I think one of the ways to use affirmations, and maybe one of the reasons I kind of resisted the idea of it in the past, was that I thought it was like you say it and then it somehow that like I was like what's the mechanism for it to suddenly work. But now I'm realizing that what the affirmation does is it points to the discomfort in hearing that. Like you say it and then something inside is like, oh, that doesn't quite feel right, or oh, I'm not quite. And so that's the thing which you then have to work on. It throws up the obstacle to it and then you work through the obstacle until you can say it and there's no resistance inside.